Ethan's ship shuddered violently as it pierced through the alien atmosphere, metal groaning and lights flickering. He gripped the control stick with white-knuckled hands, trying to steady the vessel, but the storm outside seemed to have a mind of its own. Lightning danced across the sky in shades of violet and green, reflecting off the crystalline mountains below. Every instinct in his body screamed that he was in trouble, but the human will to survive surged through him. Finally, with a jarring crash, the ship skidded across the iridescent grass of the alien planet. Sparks flew from damaged panels, and the hull emitted a low, warning hum. Ethan coughed, blood trickling from a cut on his lip, and forced himself upright. The storm was still raging, but the strange beauty of the planet made him pause. Trees with translucent leaves glowed faintly, and rivers shimmered like molten glass. He had never seen anything like it. Before he could gather his bearings, a group of tall, armored beings emerged from the shadows. Their bodies shimmered faintly, reflecting the bioluminescent light of the plants around them. Ethan raised his hands in surrender. "I come in peace," he shouted. They didn't respond but moved toward him with precise, measured steps. One of them, taller than the rest and adorned with a regal sash of glowing threads, stepped forward. The figure's eyes seemed to pierce through him, and Ethan instinctively bowed slightly, though he had no idea if that was appropriate. "You will follow," the tallest said in a voice that echoed in his mind rather than his ears. Confused, Ethan glanced at the others. They nodded and gestured for him to move. Despite his injuries, he had no choice. Resistance would be useless. The journey to their palace was unlike anything Ethan had imagined. They walked through forests where the ground pulsed faintly beneath his feet, and glowing birds darted overhead. Giant crystalline towers rose in the distance, suspended on platforms that seemed to defy gravity. The air smelled faintly sweet but carried an underlying metallic tang. Every step he took felt heavier, as though he were moving through a world that existed partly in another dimension. Finally, they reached the palace. The building was massive, its walls shimmering with colors that shifted as Ethan looked at them. Doors opened before him without anyone touching them, revealing vast halls lined with statues of beings he could only assume were their ancestors. He felt small and insignificant, yet strangely honored. Inside the main chamber, the tallest figure stopped and motioned for him to enter alone. Ethan stepped forward, heart hammering. There, on a raised dais surrounded by floating orbs of light, sat Queen Aerolith. She was breathtaking. Her skin shimmered like liquid silver, her eyes glowed softly, and her presence filled the room with a sense of authority and power that Ethan had never encountered. She gestured for him to come closer, and he obeyed, feeling both awe and fear. "Human," she said, her voice calm yet commanding, "I have watched your actions across the stars. Your courage, your sense of justice, your intelligence, it is rare among your kind." Ethan swallowed. I don't understand. Why am I here?" The queen's gaze softened, but her voice remained firm. "You are here because you have been chosen. My daughter, Princess Lysera, will take you as her husband." Ethan's mind froze. He opened his mouth to speak, but no words came. I don't know anything about your customs." "I'm not ready for this," he stammered. "I don't even know her. I'm just a soldier." The queen inclined her head slightly, a mixture of patience and firmness in her expression. "Readiness is not measured by desire alone, human. It is tested by courage, integrity, and the ability to adapt. Refusal is not an option. To deny this union would dishonor you and your presence among us. You will be prepared." Ethan felt panic rising, but he also recognized the weight behind her words. This was not a threat, at least, not in the way he understood threats, but a command from a civilization far beyond his comprehension. He nodded slowly, realizing that resistance would only worsen his situation. "You will begin your preparation immediately," the queen continued. "You will learn our ways, our trials, and our expectations. Only then will you truly understand the honor that awaits you." With that, the queen waved her hand, and the chamber doors opened to reveal a corridor lined with floating lights. Ethan followed cautiously, noticing the subtle hum of energy beneath the floor. His mind raced as he tried to comprehend what awaited him. In the following days, Ethan was introduced to the wonders of the alien civilization. He saw cities suspended in the air, where people moved effortlessly between platforms with devices that manipulated gravity. He observed creatures that seemed to exist partially as energy, partially as flesh, interacting peacefully with the inhabitants. Every moment was both fascinating and overwhelming. Yet the queen's presence was never far. She observed him during meals, during training, during his attempts to communicate with the alien scholars and warriors. Each encounter was a test. Could he remain calm under pressure? Could he understand subtle signals? Could he act with honor when confronted with moral dilemmas that had no clear solution? Then, the day came when Ethan met Princess Lysera. She was unlike anything he had expected. Her eyes burned with intelligence and curiosity, her movements precise and purposeful. She spoke without warmth at first, assessing him with every word, every gesture. "So, you are the human the queen has chosen?" she asked, her voice sharp. "Yes," Ethan replied, his voice steady despite his nerves. I'm honored, though I admit I do not fully understand the customs." Lysera's lips curved into a faint, almost imperceptible smile. "Understanding comes through action, not words." She gestured toward a training arena. "We will begin your trials. They are not only tests of strength but of mind and heart. Fail and you will prove unworthy." Ethan's stomach tightened. He had trained for battle, for survival, but nothing could have prepared him for this. The first trial was combat-based. Lysera moved with a fluid grace that Ethan could barely follow, yet he quickly realized that brute strength alone would not suffice. He had to anticipate her movements, adapt his strategies, and rely on instincts honed through years of human experience. Each successful maneuver earned her a nod of approval, each failure a quiet critique. Over the following days, the trials diversified. Ethan faced mental challenges that tested his reasoning, ethical dilemmas that required difficult choices, and simulations that forced him to navigate alien technology he barely understood. Each trial pushed him to his limits, yet he began to notice a change in Lysera. The initial skepticism in her eyes gradually softened, replaced by a reluctant admiration. She recognized that Ethan's humanity, the way he thought, the way he persisted despite uncertainty, was something her civilization had not seen before. Ethan, in turn, began to understand the alien customs and the weight of the role he had been thrust into. He saw the loyalty of the people around the queen and princess, the deep history embedded in every ritual, every gesture. Despite the strangeness, he felt a growing respect for their culture and even a sense of belonging, however tenuous. One evening, after a particularly grueling series of trials, Ethan found himself alone in the palace gardens. The bioluminescent flora glowed softly around him, and the sky shimmered with the colors of distant nebulae. He sat on a smooth stone bench, exhausted and contemplative. He had survived the day's tests, but the path ahead was still uncertain. Could he truly adapt to this world? Could he earn the respect and trust of Princess Lysera and her people? The sound of footsteps drew his attention. Lysera approached, her expression unreadable. She stopped a few feet away, studying him quietly. "You are different from the others," she said finally. "You do not move with arrogance, nor do you falter in fear. You think and you act. That is rare among humans." Ethan looked up, meeting her gaze. "I don't know if I'm ready, but I want to try. I want to understand, to do what is expected of me." Lysera's eyes softened slightly, and for the first time Ethan sensed a hint of warmth. "Then perhaps this trial is not just for you, human, but for both of us. You will learn our ways, and I will learn yours." As she walked away, Ethan felt a strange mix of relief and anticipation. The challenges ahead were immense, but he was no longer merely a visitor. He was a participant in something larger than himself, a human who had been chosen for reasons he was only beginning to understand. The Queen's words echoed in his mind. Readiness is tested by courage, integrity, and adaptability. Ethan realized that survival alone was not enough. To succeed, he would have to embrace the alien world, face its trials with honor, and discover the strength within himself that set humans apart. Night fell over the crystalline palace, stars glittering above in patterns Ethan had never seen. He lay in his quarters, injured, tired, but alive, and for the first time he felt a flicker of determination. He did not yet know what the future held, but he understood one thing: he would not falter. He would meet every challenge, learn every lesson, and perhaps, in time, earn the trust and respect of Princess Lysera. And in the back of his mind, he couldn't help but wonder, what did it truly mean to be chosen by a queen, to become a part of a civilization so far beyond humanity, and to stand beside a princess unlike any being he had ever known? The questions were endless, but so was his resolve. The storm outside had passed, leaving the alien world bathed in soft, glowing light. Ethan closed his eyes, readying himself for the trials to come. He knew the path ahead would be difficult, but he also knew one undeniable truth: humans, even alone in the vast unknown, could leave a mark stronger than anyone expected. And thus, the first chapter of his journey among the stars ended, not in triumph but in preparation. For the real challenge, he sensed, was only beginning. Ethan awoke to the soft glow of the palace, the bioluminescent lights shifting gently like living stars. The previous day's trials had left his muscles sore and his mind buzzing with new knowledge. He knew that today would be different. Lysera had hinted that the next set of challenges would test not only his skills but his character. He stretched and rose from the sleek, hovering bed, feeling both anticipation and anxiety. In the training arena, Lysera awaited him. She stood with perfect posture, her eyes sharp as she assessed him. "Today," she said, her voice steady, "you will face tests of strategy, trust, and courage. You are no longer just a visitor here. You are a participant. Your choices will define whether you are worthy of standing beside me." Ethan nodded. He had learned a great deal from the previous days, but he knew that each trial would push him further than he had imagined. The arena transformed before his eyes, holographic projections creating shifting landscapes and obstacles. The first challenge required him to navigate a maze filled with traps and shifting walls. At first, he stumbled. The maze seemed impossible, walls closing in and paths disappearing before his eyes. But Ethan remembered the lessons he had learned from his human experience: adaptability, observation, and thinking one step ahead. He paused, analyzing the patterns, noting the subtle changes in light and shadow that hinted at the wall's movement. Slowly he advanced, moving with patience rather than haste. Lysera followed silently, her expression unreadable. Occasionally she would nod, a subtle acknowledgement of his progress. Ethan realized that she was not merely testing his ability to move through the maze, she was testing his mind, his patience, and his willingness to learn. By the time he emerged from the maze, sweat dripping from his brow, he felt a sense of accomplishment. Lysera regarded him thoughtfully. "You have learned that force alone does not conquer challenges," she said. "Observation and adaptability are as powerful as strength." The next trial was more demanding. Ethan had to negotiate a simulated conflict between two alien factions. Each faction presented him with moral dilemmas, demanding fairness and wisdom. Ethan had to mediate disputes, consider the consequences of every decision, and balance justice with compassion. It was exhausting, yet he began to notice something remarkable. His human instincts for empathy and fairness were not weaknesses, they were strengths in this world. Lysera observed quietly, occasionally offering advice or guidance. She was impressed by his ability to remain calm under pressure, to weigh every choice carefully, and to act with integrity even when it was tempting to favor expedience. By the end of the trial, she spoke softly, almost in admiration. "You are beginning to understand. Human perspective is unusual yet effective." Ethan's heart lifted. It was not praise, but acknowledgement from the princess was worth more than words. He had come to respect her not only as a warrior, but as a leader capable of seeing beyond the obvious, and her recognition of his efforts strengthened his resolve. After a brief rest, the third trial commenced, an endurance challenge against the environment itself. Ethan and Lysera were placed on a floating platform high above a shimmering abyss, with fierce winds and shifting currents threatening to unseat them. Their task was to navigate across multiple platforms, using only their wits and teamwork. The winds tore at his clothing and hair, and the dizzying height made his stomach churn. Lysera moved with precision, but she relied on him as well, testing whether he could anticipate her moves and respond quickly. Ethan discovered that his human instincts, honed by years of navigating unpredictable situations on Earth, allowed him to predict patterns and maintain balance. Step by step, they crossed the treacherous terrain, each relying on the other. Finally, they reached the final platform, hearts pounding, bodies trembling. Lysera looked at him, and for the first time her eyes softened completely. "You have endurance, courage, and the ability to work with me as an equal." "That is rare." Ethan nodded, feeling both relief and pride. He had survived, but more importantly, he had proven his capacity to adapt to a world far beyond human comprehension. Just as they were about to leave the arena, an urgent alarm echoed through the palace. Red lights flashed, and a deep, resonant voice warned of an incoming threat. A rival faction of aliens, envious of the royal family's power and the human guest, had launched an attack on the palace. Chaos erupted as guards scrambled to defend the royal family. Ethan's training and instincts kicked in immediately. He saw Lysera preparing to engage the intruders, and he moved to her side. The humans, approached to combat, creative, unexpected, and relentless, caught the attackers off guard. Using a combination of human ingenuity and the limited alien technology he had learned to manipulate, Ethan devised traps and strategies that turned the tide of the battle. Lysera fought beside him, coordinating movements and strategies with precision. Together, they created an unbreakable team. The invaders, though numerous and well-armed, could not anticipate the coordination between human and alien. Slowly but surely, the palace defenders gained control, and the attackers were forced to retreat. In the aftermath, the palace was battered but intact. Guards attended to the wounded, and citizens emerged cautiously to assess the damage. Ethan stood beside Lysera, breathing heavily but unbroken. The princess approached him, her expression unreadable at first, then softening as she studied his face. "You risked yourself for us, for me. You did not merely fight, you thought, planned, and acted with courage. That is more than many of our warriors could do." Ethan shook his head, humbled. "I did what I had to do, what anyone would do to survive and protect others." Lysera smiled faintly, a rare and genuine expression. "No, you acted differently. Your mind, your heart, your humanity, it is extraordinary. You are no longer merely a guest or a participant. You are one of us now in a sense that matters." The queen, who had been observing from a distance, finally stepped forward. Her presence commanded silence. She looked at Ethan with approval, her piercing gaze softening just enough to reveal satisfaction. "The trials are complete. The tests of courage, adaptability, and integrity have been passed. You have earned not only my daughter's respect but the respect of our people. You are worthy." Ethan felt a rush of relief, pride, and something he had not expected, belonging. For weeks, he had navigated a world that seemed impossibly complex, faced challenges that tested every skill and instinct. And now, he was acknowledged not as an outsider, but as someone who could stand beside the royal family. Later, in a private chamber, Lysera approached him. She moved with a grace and confidence that made Ethan's pulse quicken, but there was no tension, only trust and respect. "Human," she said softly, "I have watched you adapt, learn, and survive. I have seen your courage and your heart. I will not force you into anything, but I hope that you will accept your place here beside me." Ethan took a deep breath, considering the journey that had brought him here. The thought of marriage, of being bonded to an alien princess, still seemed surreal. But he realized something important. It was not a matter of duty alone. He had learned to respect her people, and this world. He had faced trials, fought alongside her, and proven himself. And in doing so, he had grown. "I accept," he said finally, his voice firm. "Not because I am forced, but because I want to stand beside you and learn from this world. I want to earn the trust and respect of your people and of you." Lysera's eyes glowed softly, and a smile touched her lips. "Then it is done," she said. "We will face the future together as equals." The palace echoed with quiet celebration. Guards and citizens nodded in acknowledgement, and the queen herself allowed a rare smile. Ethan felt a warmth he had never known, a sense of accomplishment, respect, and belonging. He had arrived as a lone human, unprepared and uncertain, but now he was part of something greater, a bridge between humanity and a civilization that spanned the stars. Over the following days, Ethan continued to train and learn, not out of obligation, but from genuine curiosity and desire to grow. He explored the planet's wonders with Lysera, learning its history, its technology, and its values. He began to understand the delicate balance of diplomacy, power, and honor that guided the alien civilization, and he adapted his human instincts to complement their ways. The bond between Ethan and Lysera deepened with each shared experience. They discovered mutual respect, admiration, and a quiet friendship that hinted at something stronger. Every challenge they faced together, every decision and every risk, strengthened the trust between them. Ethan realized that he had not only survived, but had found a place where his humanity mattered, where his courage and ingenuity were recognized as extraordinary. One evening, standing together on a balcony overlooking the glowing forests and floating islands, Lysera turned to him. "You have changed this world, human," she said softly. "Not through force, not through technology, but through your heart and mind. You have shown us that humanity is remarkable." Ethan smiled, feeling the weight of the Queen's initial words and the journey that had brought him here. "I didn't do it alone," he replied. "You and your people taught me as much as I taught you. Together we can face anything." Lysera's hand brushed against his, and for the first time Ethan felt a sense of true belonging. He had crossed galaxies, survived trials, and earned the respect of beings far beyond his understanding. And now, as the stars shimmered above them, he understood something fundamental. Humans were not merely survivors. They were capable of shaping destinies, inspiring trust, and leaving a mark even in the most advanced civilizations. The Queen's words echoed in his mind one last time. Readiness is tested by courage, integrity, and adaptability. Ethan had passed the test, not by obedience alone, but by embodying the qualities that made humanity special. He had proven that even a lone human could stand proudly among the stars, capable of forging alliances, inspiring respect, and creating bonds that transcended worlds. As the night deepened and the lights of the alien city glowed softly, Ethan and Lysera stood side by side, looking toward the future. The trials were over, but their journey had only just begun. Together, human and princess, they would face new challenges, explore uncharted worlds, and build a connection that symbolized the extraordinary potential of humanity. And in that moment, Ethan understood the truth of the Queen's choice. The heart of a human, tempered by courage and guided by integrity, could shine brighter than any star, leaving a legacy that would endure across galaxies.